Traces of a toxic metal are found in drinking sources at a UNC system school.
And Governor Cooper visits Scotland County to praise public dollars spent on child care centers.
Plus, a court order puts a halt to student debt relief. Should you still apply?
We'll tell you on Carolina News Today. A UNCP student was arrested and charged in connection with the campus bomb threat we told you about before fall break. Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Jeff Howard, told the Student Affairs and Campus Life Committee that the student faces felony charges. The student also faces conduct charges on the campus level, obviously. No motive was given for the scare, which was made on social media.
Roy Cooper was in Scotland County last week to praise a grant program that helped child care centers retain their workforce. He visited State Line Children's World, a 5-star preschool and after-school center in Laurinburg. The governor says the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services has awarded more than $655 million federal dollars to thousands of child care centers and homes. The grants help to keep programs open and pay teachers and staff during the coronavirus pandemic. He also announced the arrival of a major food manufacturing facility. SoPatco makes ready-to-eat meals and military rations and will invest $85 million to build a state-of-the-art facility in Laurinburg County. Company President Lonnie Thompson said this addition to the roster of Southern factories will help position them for growth opportunities while expanding service to existing clients. SoPatco will create at least 400 new jobs for the region.
A new report out Monday shows a historic drop in math and reading scores during the pandemic. Across the country, 4th and 8th graders fell behind in what amounts to the largest ever decrease in math scores in particular. CNN's Gabe Cohen has more on what this can mean for children, parents, and educators.
An alarming snapshot of learning loss from the pandemic. New test results from the nation's report card show in most states, 4th and 8th graders are falling behind in reading and math. The math scores are historic, the worst decline ever recorded, with roughly 25% of 4th graders and 38% of 8th graders performing below the basic level, the lowest of the 3 achievement levels for the test. Students who were already struggling in school showed the most dramatic drop-off. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona calling the results appalling and unacceptable.
They were isolated for a year and a half to 2 years. That's a huge, huge problem.
Michelle Burke is an 8th grade teacher on Long Island and has a daughter in 8th grade.
My daughter is struggling in math exponentially. A lot of the things that we're seeing emotionally, behaviorally, are putting a huge strain on what you're seeing in the classroom. Huge strain.
The findings come more than a month after similar results showing math and reading scores for 9-year-olds fell by a level not seen in decades. The federal government is pumping billions in relief funds into districts, requiring them to spend at least 20% on learning loss. Schools nationwide have been trying to hire more staff, but with teacher burnout and fewer new teachers, many schools face a teacher shortage, especially in rural areas and those with more low-income families and students of color.
Good afternoon. IDs, please.
At Casa Grande Union High School in Arizona, some classes have more than 70 students, and in other rooms, para-educators are teaching lessons prepared by a certified teacher.
I think of myself, I struggled with math, and if I was sitting in that classroom, I needed help, I had questions, I need somebody to break it down a different way. If there's nobody who has the content knowledge to do that, I'm going to shut down, and I'm thinking many of our students might be shutting down as well.
Okay, last couple seconds.
At UNC Chapel Hill, officials have been testing water pipes since discovering traces of lead in 3 library water fountains back in September. This month, they identified lead in some of the historic residence halls. Reporter Cindy Bay filed this report for WTVD.
We're doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Testing all water fixtures in buildings at UNC Chapel Hill, the university is taking no detectable levels of lead, even if it's under the federal threshold for action.
Even if we find lead levels below 15 parts per billion, even if it's 0.2 parts per billion, we are taking action and taking that fixture out of service and replacing it, remediating it in some way.
The results showing nearly 68% of the in-room sinks throughout Spencer Residence Hall had detectable levels of lead. At Stacy Residence Hall, less than half a mile away, the only level of lead detected was 1.1 parts per billion. But it's enough to keep freshmen on the lookout for safe drinking water.
I'm only drinking from places that I know have been tested and have come up with results that they're okay to drink from. Any place else, I won't drink. I'll bring a water bottle with me or something like that.
I was coming into college thinking that my dorm would be safe, that I would be able to drink the water in there, and I had been drinking the water in there for about 2.5 months now. So to hear that it could have had lead in it this whole time was just not something I wanted to hear. My dorm's either over 100 years old or almost 100 years old, so I'm really glad that it didn't end up having lead in it. But I'm just being pretty cautious about what I use.
UNC has detected lead in more than 8 buildings and dozens of sinks or water fountains since September, including 57 sinks in Spencer Hall. They're testing buildings in phases based on age of the buildings and providing alternative water sources. The school is providing blood testing for any students or personnel who live or work in the affected buildings.
Here at UNC Pembroke, you might have noticed a subtle difference in references to the James B. Chavis building, formerly known as the Chavis University Center. The building is now called the Chavis Student Center. It may seem like a minor difference, but the change was approved by the Board of Trustees last spring. The first floor interior was remodeled during the pandemic. The building's namesake was a former Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, and the current Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, Dr. Jeff Howard, says the new wording should help people understand the purpose of the facility.
We were honored to keep the James B. Chavis, but to adjust the name from University Center to Student Center to more appropriately reflect what happens in that building. And it really is a student hub for activity. And that's why we want folks to see it.
The Department of Philosophy and Religion hosted an award-winning professor of mathematics Thursday for a guest lecture on math as a philosophical pursuit. Dr. Francis Sue is on the faculty at Harvey Mudd College in California and is a former president of the Mathematical Association of America. He told the audience that math is a deeply human enterprise that fulfills basic human longings and builds virtues such as problem solving and creativity. He brought along copies of his book, Mathematics for Human Flourishing. UNCP faculty took their philosophy and religion students to the lecture in Thomas Hall.
The art department AD Gallery held a closing reception for a grad student show on Friday. 2 students earning their master's degrees in art education talked about their capstone exhibit, and refreshments were served. Allison Ellis is a printmaker who also did her undergrad degree here at UNC Pembroke and teaches in Columbus County. Taylor Style teaches high school art in Mecklenburg County and chose to exhibit paintings that reflect her emotional struggles and learning differences. The show opened on September 28th, but now makes way for a senior show by 4 art majors graduating in December. Their opening reception is Friday night.
The Biden administration is encouraging people eligible for student loan debt relief to keep applying online, despite a court order trying to block the plan. U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona says 22 million people have already provided the necessary information needed to review their eligibility. Here's more from CNN News Source.
It may take a little longer, but Cody Hunanian is still expecting a third of his student loan to be forgiven.
It's a light at the end of the tunnel.
He's referring to President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness program that would cover $10,000 of his student debt. Because while he's been out of college for 9 years, he still owes $30,000.
I recently married. Me and my wife are going to be thinking about purchasing a home. So it's all of a sudden kind of right in front of me again because I'm thinking about the kind of debt I have and I need to finance my future and get a home.
But while the administration was expected to start granting loan discharges as early as Sunday, a federal appeals court put a temporary administrative hold on the program. a move being argued in and out of the courtroom. USC economics professor Robert Deacle says that while all his students support the program, he asks them to consider different perspectives.
Relative to defense spending and the overall government budget, the annual cost is not huge. But it's going to be a burden on current taxpayers.
He also says if the goal is to help low-income families, the government should instead invest in, say, early childhood education. As an economist, Deacle says he thinks short-term loan forgiveness will only make inflation worse. But as a professor, he believes long-term this will make the U.S. more competitive.
We need people with skills, and the way to get it is in higher education.
And it's that education that Hunanian says got him to where he is today. Now the executive director of the Student Debt Crisis Center, a nonprofit focused on ending the student debt crisis.
For me, the only way to open the door was to take on student loan debt, even though it's created really unnecessary challenges and we've had to be stressed and all of that, but my future is brighter nonetheless.
Now he's not only waiting for his loan forgiveness, but also fighting so that others can also get the relief.
My dream, my vision for a better America in the future is one where my kids don't even have to consider student loan debt.
State Route 740 near Charlotte will now be known as Lou Donaldsonville Boulevard in recognition of an award-winning jazz saxophonist. And last week, the North Carolina Department of Transportation observed Walk and Roll to School Day in NCDOT Now.
Hi everyone, I'm Kelsey Edwards for this week's NCDOT Now. A highway near Charlotte is now named for a well-known jazz musician who grew up in Stanley County. A section of NC 740 was dedicated last week to Baden native Lou Donaldson, a retired jazz saxophonist and member of the International Jazz Hall of Fame. Donaldson, who lives in Florida, returned for the ceremony and said he was grateful for the honor. State transportation officials and lawmakers joined local officials for the dedication ceremony.
I've been all over the world, I've seen a lot of things, but this is the biggest honor I believe that, I had to come upon me.
The 95-year-old Donaldson started recording jazz music after serving in the U.S. Navy during World War II. During his career, Sweet Papa Lou, as he is known, recorded music with other prominent jazz musicians, and in 2012 was inducted into the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame. On the coast, crews have started removing pavement and protective sandbags on a 2-mile former section of NC 12, known as the S-curves. Portions of the road that are being removed are bypassed by the new Rodanthe Jug Handle Bridge, which opened to traffic July 28th. The S-curves area had been one of the most vulnerable sections of NC 12, periodically facing ocean overwash that forced closures of the highway during nor'easters and tropical weather events. Work to remove the pavement and sandbags is expected to take about 6 weeks. Crews will be able to complete the work without disrupting traffic on NC 12. Safety is always top of the mind for the North Carolina Department of Transportation. That's why NCDOT officials joined children, parents, and community members to support Walk and Roll to School Day, celebrations across the state last week. Walk and Roll to School Day encourages families to consider going to school on foot or by bicycle to highlight safe travel, healthy habits, and less traffic congestion. The day also reminds drivers that roads, especially those around schools, have more than just cars on them. That's all for this week's NCDOT Now. Stay safe, everyone.
New research shows that sleep may just be as important to your heart as diet and exercise, but 1/3 of U.S. adults get less Z's than recommended. CNN's Manny Gaither gives us a look at new sleep data and why health experts say a good night's rest should be a priority.
If you want to be healthy, get enough sleep. That's according to a new large study.
There's a lot of things you can live without, but you can't live without sleep.
The research finds people 50 and older who slept 5 hours or less a night faced a 30% higher risk of developing multiple chronic diseases like cancer, diabetes, and heart disease over time compared to those who slept at least 7 hours a night. At age 60, it was a 32% increased risk, and at 70, a 40% greater risk.
You're more irritable when you're not sleeping enough or not getting good quality sleep. It affects your relationships. There's really not a component of your life or your body that can't be affected by your sleep.
It's recommended that adults 18 and older get 7 or more hours of sleep a night. Dr. Mari Horvat with Cleveland Clinic's Sleep Disorder Center says, listen to your body.
Really emphasize to my patients, it's not, hey, I function okay on 6 hours. It's, do you feel good on that amount of sleep that you're getting? Do you feel well rested, like you don't need more sleep?
The CDC suggests improving your sleep with some new habits, like going to bed and getting up at the same time every day. Keep your bedroom quiet, dark, and a comfortable temperature. And avoid large meals, caffeine, and alcohol before bed, all things that can disrupt sleep.
You're probably familiar with the term Payday Friday, but what about Payday Wednesday? Some customers of JPMorgan Chase will be talking about it. As bank rolls out early access to some forms of direct deposits, such as paychecks and pensions, the largest bank in America is offering the service to about 1.4 million secure banking customers. The money could arrive in their accounts up to 48 hours sooner than before. Other financial institutions already offer early access to customers such as Capital One and Wells Fargo's. They hope it helps with some households with paying bills on time and dealing with unexpected expenses.
Leaves are changing color and dropping off trees. Temperatures are dropping as well here in North Carolina and across the country. But how cold will it get this winter? Government forecasters have released their winter weather outlook, and Southerners may be pleased with what they're saying.
Winter is coming, and Americans in the northern tier of the country should brace themselves for cooler than average conditions, according to NOAA's newly released winter weather outlook.
We are favoring below normal temperatures for that season from the Pacific Northwest across the northern Rockies to the northern plains, further eastward to the western Great Lakes.
Precipitation chances also up for northern states, the Great Lakes, and Ohio Valley that could set the stage for some snow days.
On average over the season, we are favoring generally above normal snowfall in those generally colder and some of the wetter areas.
But not everyone in the U.S. will face a frosty future. Much of the southern half of the country and along the eastern seaboard will likely see warmer than average temperatures due to the anticipated reappearance of La Nina for a third consecutive year. However, La Nina also puts a damper on precipitation. That means places already experiencing extreme drought like the West, Great Plains, and parts of the Southeast could see conditions persist or worsen.
We tend to have drier than normal conditions along the southern tier of the U.S., and so that's why drought expansion is predicted.
But winter weather is fickle. Fluctuations in La Nina, along with changes in Arctic oscillation patterns, are harder to predict. So those wild winter events like polar vortexes and bomb cyclones can still drop in and drop the temperature, despite the current outlook. In Washington, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
A father in Illinois helps create elaborate costumes for his son Anthony, who uses a wheelchair. Anthony's Halloween escapades have gotten national attention over the years, and the family continues to inspire, as we see here.
In Melrose Park in October, there are two pressing questions. Who am I going to be for Halloween? And who is Anthony Alfano going to be?
Excitement. This is what we do it for. All this excitement with the kids and everything is what we do it for. And for Anthony, because look at how happy he is.
Once a year, Anthony is the center of the Halloween universe. His wheelchair-accessible costumes, created by his father, have long been thrilling Halloween lovers. Last year, he rode in style as Cameron from Ferris Bueller. And before that, he was Beetlejuice, Blue Man Group, Zoltar from the movie Big, and more. For 13-year-old Anthony, who has cerebral palsy, that smile says it all. What keeps driving you?
Him. Like, he's the one that every time I see him smile, it's like, I gotta do it again.
This year's costume, the bone organ from Goonies, which in the 80s classic film the kids discover in the labyrinth and have to play correctly in order to survive. Hitting the wrong chords spells doom. Anthony's dad started on the costume weeks ago, crafting the bones from bamboo. And the organ keys from plastic skeleton fingers. We gave it a whirl. Like in the movie, hitting the wrong keys will give you a jolt. Oh my goodness. The Alfanos have donated 2 of Anthony's costumes to families with children in wheelchairs. Their love and creativity spreading joy to others.
we just want to keep doing it because it keeps filling us up and keeps moving us forward.
In Melrose Park, Eric Hong, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Nearly all popular brands of athletic wear are making some sports bras and shirts with synthetics that test positive for BPA. That's a chemical that can be absorbed through the skin and raises health concerns. An advocacy group called the Center for Environmental Health has notified companies that the garments may cause exposure to BPA that exceeds limits set by the state of California in 1986. Here's more from CNN News Source.
Your favorite gym outfit could be toxic. New research reveals some popular exercise clothing brands contain high levels of a chemical that can lead to asthma, heart disease, even obesity.
Even at really low levels of exposure, there can be adverse health effects, so we're very concerned.
The nonprofit consumer advocacy group Center for Environmental Health found that 8 brands had sports bras with high levels of BPA, a chemical used to make certain types of plastic. Those brands include Athleta, Pink, Asics, The North Face, Brooks, All in Motion, Nike, and Fila. The group says BPA can have a major impact, even in small doses when it's absorbed through your skin.
They alter your hormone, the regulation in your body, and your hormones are responsible for everything, for regulating your sleep, your hunger.
The group also tested athletic shirts from the brands The North Face, Brooks, Mizuno, Athleta, New Balance, and Reebok, and found similar results. To be clear, the high levels of BPA were found only in polyester-based clothing containing spandex. CEH says the companies have been sent legal notices and will have 60 days to work on remedies before the group files a complaint in California State Court.
We want people to be more aware, but ultimately we're trying to hold these companies accountable.
So, what can you do to protect yourself? First, check your clothes brand and the tag to see what it's made of. And second, make sure you change after you work out to reduce exposure.
Braves volleyball takes it to the next level.
And the soccer team keeps on coming out on top.
Plus, Braves football makes the wrong kind of history.
It's CNT Sports, coming up with Donovan Fant.
Homecoming 2022. Brave Nation alumni, we have missed you and can't wait to see you back on campus. Kick off your weekend early at Thursday's homecoming parade, bonfire, and Moonlight Madness basketball showcase. And don't forget to swing by the annex for an alumni swag bag and a little food and music at the Connect to Careers mentoring event. Friday, share some memories, reconnect with old friends, and make some new ones at the class reunion luncheon. Experience classrooms across campus with a variety of presentations by registering for the alumni in the classroom. Volleyball faces off against Belmont Abbey, and we celebrate alumni achievement at the Alumni Awards and Hall of Fame. And what better way to cap off the day of memories than a 90s throwback concert at GPAC with Tone Loc, CNC Music Factory, Digital Underground, and Quad City DJs. So rest up Friday night because Saturday starts with tailgating at 11:30. All the way through football, soccer, and swimming. And it doesn't stop until the doors close on the alumni homecoming party at midnight. Brave Nation alumni, mark your calendars, buy your tickets, and dig out some old photos to share. Make new memories with old friends. Homecoming 2022 is where you belong.
What's up, Brave Nation? I'm Donovan Fant, and this is what's been going on in Brave sports. On Saturday, Braves football traveled back to West Virginia to take on the University of Charleston. The Braves found themselves down 28-0 before senior quarterback Josh Jones found C.J. Davis for a 34-yard touchdown. Jones later took it in the end zone himself on an 8-yard rush to trim the deficit 35-14. The Braves scored once in the second half with Jones finding Zechariah Adams-Duxon on a 48-yard touchdown pass. Unfortunately, the game overall resulted in a new school record when the Braves defense allowed the most points scored against them in the team's short history. So they went on to lose the game, 70-21. The Braves will have another chance to get back in the win column Saturday in their homecoming game against West Liberty. Good luck, guys. Braves soccer traveled to Central South Carolina Saturday to challenge Southern Wesleyan. The Braves offense continued to dominate with junior Anna Grossheim leading the charge. She was all over the field, assisting on 4 goals and scoring 1 of her own. The Braves scored 5 goals in the second period with Naomi Fountain, Ashley Harris, and Alea Bigford all finding the net. The Braves won the matchup 6-1. The team will now turn their attention to the Conference Carolinas Championship, where they will defend home field in a quarterfinal round Saturday against tomorrow's winner of Emmanuel versus Barton. Braves volleyball was also on the road Saturday at the same school. Braves had the advantage in almost every statistical category: 41 kills to 19, 7 aces to 1, 38 assists to 19, 42 digs to 36. The Braves were able to hold the Warriors to a negative .012 hitting percentage on the night, taking with the win with 3-0. Volleyball will continue their road trip today when they travel to Hickory for a contest against Lenore Ryan. The Braves will host Belmont Abbey Friday at home for senior night. Braves cross country traveled to Huntsville, Alabama to compete in the UAH Invitational on Saturday. On the men's side, the Braves placed 16th out of 48 schools. Senior Joshua Chepkasir finished 10th place in the 8K with a time of 23 minutes and 51 seconds. 5 others all ran personal best. On the women's side, the Braves placed 21st of 44 teams. Jacqueline Cosgy and Karen Perot ran personal best in the 5K, with Cosgy tying the school record time of 18:6:30, placing 35th individually. Cosgy has been named Conference Carolinas Runner of the Week, her 3rd time winning the award. Next up, the Braves will run for the crown. They'll head to Spartanburg, South Carolina on November 5th to compete in the Conference Carolinas Championship. Now this is weird, but around the country, slap fighting is becoming popular, and some venues in Las Vegas will soon let people bet on this growing sport. Kristen Drummond of KSNV has that story.
Here's your windup. 2, 3. Oh, and Frank with a big shot.
A viral hit.
Wow.
Going mainstream.
I think that's absolutely cool.
Looks like you have to have a pretty thick neck to be able to withstand this.
Various reactions to scene slap fighting, a growing underground sport finding popularity the last few years on social media and a source of entertainment for LaRae Williams.
TikTok, Instagram, you're just scrolling. They always have them, but it's mostly like in other countries.
But not anymore. The Nevada State Athletic Commission unanimously approved to allow sanctioned slap fights in the state.
So hopefully we'll be the first to regulate this, and hopefully other jurisdictions and other communities, states, and countries will do the same.
But the knockout point for Chairman Stephen Klubeck, fighter safety. The state's involvement maintains a focus of health and matchmaking integrity like weight classes.
It'll mimic pretty much UFC or MMA with professionals that have been in this sector before, so we're comfortable with the promoters.
Looking at it seems kind of ridiculous to me.
But fun?
Would be fun to watch.
And possibly bet on. In a statement, the Nevada Gaming Control Board tells me it does not issue a specific approval for wagers to be accepted on a new sporting event or league, so an event can typically be wagered on as long as it meets the general criteria set forth in the regulations. That means it's up to the licensed sports books. Looking at permitted wagers, this type of competition falls under the rules.
I think that'll be a good sport to have out here.
Leaving Williams anticipating when she can attend an in-person match.
Yep, I'll be there in the crowd. I won't be getting slapped though, that's what I won't be doing.
The first slap fight in Vegas could take place before the end of the year. That's it for CNT Sports. It's homecoming weekend, so go out and show your Braves pride. Lots of matchups to choose from, not just football. In fact, the swimming team holds their first home meet of the season on Saturday at 5 o'clock. I'm Don, and I'm gone. Nay and Chase, back to you.
Thanks, Donovan. The weather looks great for Saturday, just a little bit cloudy. I'm Chase Foster.
And I'm Nay McInnes. Thanks for watching.